listening to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey!
Sorry if it sounds a little bit off. I am recording on the probably worst traveling setup I have recorded on before. It's right next to a train station on some mobile data with a Bluetooth headset that keeps cutting out. But we're here to deliver you Wrestling Roundup every week. That does also mean we don't have NXT results, as that is airing as we are recording. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get some of them at the end, but we probably won't. And that means we get to turn our focus towards Raw and SmackDown, and I guess to just talk about the big overarching crossover storyline that seems to be setting ourselves up for Survivor Series. We're getting a lot of this Judgment Day, Bloodline, good guys kind of crossover happening.
Yeah, Mammy's definitely not taking no for an answer for whatever she's asking for. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to have the two biggest factions, most important stories, be intertwined in what is considered one of the most important pay-per-views of the year.
Yeah, I think it kind of helps as well that they're both fairly... Like, we built them in a way that they can cross over. We've put Jey Uso over there, who captured the tag team titles off of Judgment Day, is still dealing with Bloodline, his brother over there. And so there is still a whole lot of crossover between the two. It's not like we see some years where we just sort of pick up unattached feuds and shove them into a match because we need to make 5 men or 5 women for the match. So they've really built this one really well, you know, with Sammy, Kevin Owens going over to SmackDown in the trade, Jay coming over this way, still dealing with Jimmy. Not sure about whether, you know, Roman and Co are happy with Jimmy. Cody, Rhodes, and Jay capturing the titles, losing the titles. They've really managed to find a way to build all of this quite nicely.
Yeah, it's all flowing kind of into each other. Each individual step makes sense, and the end goal is what to be expected. It is going to be Judgment Day and what's left of the Bloodline, versus everybody that the Bloodline and or Judgment Day have screwed over the last year.
Yeah, and I think that is it, right? It's just a big... It's hard to say, like, culmination point or anything as well, because there's been so many culmination points. But this, you know, if this was an MCU movie, it feels like we're getting to our Avengers, whatever the important one was, Infinity War, where everything beforehand is important. You know, like Cody Rhodes losing at WrestleMania, that's important. All of the stuff between the brothers, that's important. All the stuff with Kevin Owens early in the Bloodline feud, that's important. Stuff with Sammy, it's all tying up.
Yeah, everything's all its loose ends are being tied up, and you're definitely right. This is the Infinity War part of the saga, right before we get to the end game, which the eventual end game is going to be the complete destruction of both these groups. Obviously, I think with Bloodline, the ultimate destruction is when Roman loses those titles. At least from the standpoint of the entire storyline from the group. I think him losing the title will only be like the 6th or 7th inning in a baseball story game. Because I think the end game for Roman is his eventual switch back to being a face.
Yeah, it's... Right now, I guess it's really easy to, especially since we're making all of these Marvel analogies, right? Roman Reigns is Thanos at this point, and his defeat is the end of the saga-y piece. Is that defeat going to be at Cody Rhodes' hands? Is that defeat going to be at Jey Uso's hands? Is it going to be at The Rock's hands? We might not know the exact specifics, but... And I feel like we've been saying this a lot, but I mean it this time. It's going to happen soon.
Yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen sometime between 2 weeks from now and WrestleMania 40.
So we're making the promise it won't go past WrestleMania 40.
I believe whoever faces him at WrestleMania is going to be the guy that beats him.
Okay. At WrestleMania, not at Backlash, not at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think that's what they're building to, and I think on SmackDown we had a hint because after Cody and Jay successfully defended their titles, for some odd reason they were defending them before they had a title shot already set up. Once they successfully defended him, they walked out. You have Jay standing, staring at Jimmy, and you have Roman staring at Cody. I think they told us this is the guy. This is the guy we're building to. It's just a matter of when and where and how we get there.
Yeah, I think we've got our short term. Like AJ is still floating around. Cody does feel like the long game, the one that we're heading for. But even LA Knight's poking his nose in here and there. I don't think LA Knight's going to be the guy to dethrone Roman or anything like that. But I think it's important that he's getting himself involved in these upper feuds, because it does feel like gold will be around his waist, within, I don't want to say within the year, let's say within the next 4 months, if not WrestleMania 40. Now, let's put the WrestleMania deadline on it like everything else. LA Knight will have gold by WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm not so sure on that one.
Oh, you don't have faith?
It's just storyline.
You're meant to just say, yeah. That's all you're meant to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, LA Knight is huge right now. If he gets a title, I'd be all for it. The thing is I just don't see which title he'd win right now. It's definitely not going to be a world title. I just don't see that happening.
No, I think those are definitely tied up. Like, Roman's is tied up, and Seth's going to deal with Judgment Day. So, yeah, they're locked away.
So, yeah, the only way that I see him winning a world title at WrestleMania is if in the next month or so, Damian Priest does cash in and becomes world champion, and LA Knight wins the Rumble, which goes against everything I predicted up to this point, and faces him for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. That's the only way I see him winning a world title by WrestleMania. And then you have the mid-card titles. Or you have the United States Championship, which is meaningless at this point. And then you have the Intercontinental Championship, which is the second most important in the entire company, because I love Seth Rollins, but I don't care about his reign. And I think it's largely because they put him in a box called being a fighting champion. It's made so that he's not special. You see him all the time. You see him wrestling for the title all the time. It's not special at that point.
Yeah, I think Gunther's Intercontinental title reign is really important. Obviously, it broke records. It's still going. It doesn't look like, Bronson Reed trying to put a dent in it ain't going to put a dent in it. And there's other people floating around in that upper mid card, Shinsuke, Ricochet, etc., that could want to be the guy who's going to take the title off of Gunther. I don't think that guy is LA Knight. I don't know. It doesn't feel like that would, be a satisfying conclusion to the Gunther thing.
Yeah, especially with Gunther and LA Knight being on different shows.
Just make a trade.
Yeah. So I think if he does get a title, it would have to be either him thrown in a random tag team, because WWE loves to do that with big stars, or the United States Championship, which is currently somewhat tied up with the LWO stuff.
It's like all the titles are tied up with a faction, right? Roman's title with the Bloodline, Seth Rollins' title with Judgment Day, Gunther's with Imperium, and the United States title with the LWO.
And then you have the tag team titles that are tied up with the Judgment Day, because guess what? They want them back.
Yeah, it's yeah, you blink and the Judgment Day have their titles back. I think I made a joke that the Judgment Day can't lose their titles for more than a week. Dom loses his title to Trick, immediately gets it back. Priest and Balor lose their titles and then immediately get them back the next week as well.
And that's really what it was. But yeah, I mean, if they were going to do that, I'm fine with that. I just don't like the idea of them defending the titles twice beforehand when they had an announced match, because those made those title defenses pointless.
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of just looking forward to, and maybe we've given up on this plan, but I am kind of just looking forward to the point where we decide to split these off back into 2 titles. And it won't be until we've finished dealing with, the Judgment Day, until we finish dealing with everybody else, which could be a long way off the line. I won't make a promise that by WrestleMania 40 we'll have 2 sets of tag titles, but I really think, if you could have the LWO and the Street Profits beefing over some SmackDown tag titles right now, I think that would work, and then have these guys running around with the Raw titles. But having the cross-branded titles is like your ticket to just move people between shows, to have Jey Uso show up on SmackDown, to have the Judgment Day show up everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah, but if you like a segue, perhaps our new general manager of SmackDown might be able to give us some SmackDown tag titles.
That is true. That's we finally get separate general managers. I guess Adam Pearce had his job role cut in half, and we get ourselves Nick Aldis / Magnus / whatever you want to call him. What's it actually going to mean for SmackDown? That's a harder question. Is it just an authority figure? Does it announcing authority figures for both shows, does that mean that the authority figure is going to have more of a impact in the day-to-day show?
Yeah, that's definitely a big question that we have to ask ourselves there. But I figured that would be an excellent place for our theme song, since, that's why I was doing the segue.
Oh, that's what the segue was. Yeah, I have one screen. I've lost track of time. Fine, we will segue into the song, and we will talk about Nick when we get back from the song, because the song this week is none other than our new SmackDown General Manager.
In 1986.
And you're back to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. Thank you very much for your segue.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Even if I completely whiffed it.
I like the presentation of Nick. I know nothing about him. I don't follow NWA, so I'm learning on the fly with him. But I liked the presentation. I liked the quick wit of him with the whole, "Hey Dom, I'm a big fan of your father." So I'm interested in seeing how they progress. And for the potentially the first time in WWE history of having authoritarian figures on television, if you really wanted to, you could have a match with them.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping Adam and Nick going.
Yeah, I'd say not anytime soon, but maybe Survivor Series next year, you could do a one-on-one match between Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, and it would be perfectly fine. It would be perfectly reasonable. Or you could even throw them onto a 5-on-5 match and be like, "I believe in my brand so much, I'm going to put my body on the line in this match."
Yeah, I think Nick might have a bit of a leg up on Adam, but both have had respectable pro wrestling careers before coming into this authority figure role. Both are still working backstage. They make sense as on-screen authority figures. Personally, I was a big fan of Magnus back when he was on TNA. He was one of my guys when I was watching that many moons ago. And so it's good to see him coming full circle back to a wrestling brand that has viewers. And not
internet viewers on YouTube that you can't grow from.
Mm. Yeah, and so I'm interested, but as I tried to ask, I guess before the entrance scene, before I figured out the segue by being forced down my throat, do you think this means that authority figures are gonna have a bit more say or a bit more action on the day-to-day shows now?
I think so. I think that was the purpose of one, giving giving Adam Pearce his promotion to being the general manager of Raw, and then bringing in Nick as the general manager of SmackDown, is so that you have a clear person to be able to guide all the storylines.
Yeah, it's like we kind of go through like waves, right? Where we have a lot of or we have general managers for the brands, and then they sort of fade away, and then we don't do general managers, and then they come back, and then we don't do them, and then they come back, and there's never really been a solid. Is there going to be an authority figure or not? That's been continued throughout a long time, but we've had some amazing general managers or just authority figures throughout the years, and Adam Pearce has done well in that sort of undefined role that he's been having the last probably couple of years, and so yeah, looking forward to seeing what formal separation leads us for both brands.
Yeah, and I love that in Nick Aldis's initial speech, he took a shot at Raw. He took a shot. He's like, I'm glad to be the new general manager of the number one sports entertainment brand in the world, SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
And indirectly took a shot at another company.
Look, it's pretty easy to take shots at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, their owner definitely isn't making it a hard target, that's for sure.
Look, I have zero authority in the wrestling world. I have zero authority in the billionaire world. But, you know, maybe sometimes you should uninstall Twitter. That's all I'm gonna say.
Or hire somebody to run social media for you.
There's got to be a blockade there.
Yeah.
But talking about a blockade in the women's division, you mentioned her a little bit earlier when we were talking about Judgment Day. Rhea Ripley still holding on to her championship, and then she ultimately gets dogpiled by a number of people looking for a challenge. You know, Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and we end up getting ourselves a lovely little fatal 5-way match.
Yeah.
Booked for a couple weeks.
Yeah. Everybody she's been feuding with, plus Zoe Stark.
Gotta throw her in somewhere.
Yeah. It's fine. It's definitely going to be one of those, how is Rhea going to overcome this?
Mm-hmm.
Because every one of the challenges for her biggest challenges on the Raw roster are in this match.
Yeah, I was going to say that, right? When we were looking at who could potentially challenge Rhea, the list wasn't long. I would say the list is probably about 4 people long. And, well, I would personally say 3, but we'll say 4 for the sake of the joke. And yeah, all 4 of them have come here. Raquel had a shot, hasn't made it. You know, we thought she was potentially going to be the one to put up a really big showing against Rhea. Nia Jax returns, obviously a big force there to be reckoned with. Shayna Baszler got the rub from Ronda on her way out, could put on a good piece. Zoe Stark, more of a unknown, I wouldn't say younger talent, but an unknown coming up from NXT, doing the Trish Stratus storyline off on her own now. And then, yeah, the only other challenger is kind of wrapped up on NXT right now. But it's going to be a hard challenge for Rhea.
Yeah. And so I'm excited because I think it'll be a good match. It's got all the pieces to be a really good match.
Yeah, I think it's also going to be a launch pad for a feud coming out of this. I reckon, you know, we still look at it and we still think, you know, maybe we see Becky Rhea being the WrestleMania 40 match. It's obviously a little while away. We got to get through the next 5 months. I think Raquel's just had a shot. Zoe's the least likely. And so this may end up deciding, is Nia Jax or is Shayna Baszler going to be the next one to get a one-on-one shot against Rhea Ripley and maybe carry the storyline on and stop gap up to Survivor Series or even past that potentially. I don't know the order of the pay-per-views. I'm really bad at remembering that. December pay-per-view, I'll say that. Is it TLC?
I don't even know. I don't even look it up. I just look up what they're telling us when it's time for a pay-per-view.
What's the next thing? What's the one right in front of my eyes? That's all I can concentrate on. I can't look 2 months into the future. Look, I know Rumble's at the start of the year. I know there's an Elimination Chamber because it's in Australia, funnily enough, not the city I'm in. I think I'm actually closer to New Zealand than to Perth at the moment. That's just how far in Australia Elimination Chamber will be, and then I know WrestleMania comes up after that. That's the all-important run. That's when we start building up towards the biggest pay-per-view of the year. By my reckoning, if I've calculated this correctly, we've still got about 2 to 5 minutes, somewhere around there, to go. Is there any other ongoing storyline you want to quickly mention before we run out of time?
I mean, we referenced the Intercontinental Championship match, but we didn't really talk about the match.
That's true. Bronson Reed had his shot against Gunther after earning it last week and didn't come out with the win.
No, but I think this was a phenomenal match. It was every bit of the big meaty men slapping meat fest we wanted. And then
I was going to say the line, do the roar.
I will say, and I think Gunther sold so well the damage Bronson Reed did to him. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he was clutching the title to his chest, like he knows he barely escaped with it.
Yeah, I think there's two things to see coming out of this match. About Gunther. Gunther has holes. He's not an unbeatable monster. He just goes in that ring, has a fight with you, and comes out on top time after time after time. It's not the same as sort of Roman Reigns' unbeatable kind of piece where he feels like Superman. In this case, it feels like Gunther goes in and has just every single fight. And there's a chance he loses every single one that he has. There's a chance Chad Gable beats him. There's a chance Bronson Reed beats him this week. And when it eventually happens, it'll be like, damn, that person earned the Intercontinental Championship, earned taking that title off of Gunther. And as we continue to say, Gunther probably goes on, wins the Rumble, and captures the title. Because there's big things from him. But then also on the flip side, looking at Bronson Reed, the guy's been in some amazing matches. I think it was the Elimination Chamber match last year, if I recall correctly, that he was amazing in. He's here. He's doing great again against Gunther. This guy deserves some big things and some high-profile storylines on Raw.
Yeah, I agree. I like Bronson Reed. I think he could be a massive player in the future on the side of needing like a reliable big man. And you can't really say much more than that. I will say I still want Gunther to win the Rumble. I still want Gunther to drop the title so he can focus on that and go after a world title. But if there is one potential storyline that I could see myself getting behind if he still has the title, the Intercontinental title, going into WrestleMania.
All right, we'll end the show with it. Shoot.
What if you bring back Brock Lesnar and he wants a shot at Gunther at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship?
Yeah. I think Brock Lesnar Gunther is money, so...
Yeah. I mean, what would it say for Gunther and the Intercontinental Champion that somebody with the lineage and star power of Brock Lesnar says, I don't care about the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't care about the Universal Championship. I want Gunther, I want that championship.
I want the big man so I can slap some meat.
Yep. I think that would be a phenomenal match. And it would be a huge way of putting Gunther over. Even if you had Brock beat him, and then had him like Gunther beat him back like a month later to get the title back. It would be a huge, like, this is our guy. This is a guy that we're depending on in the future.
It would be that like tick, because Gunther is gonna be that guy, plain and simple.
Uh-huh.
Alrighty, well, that is all the time we have for this week. Thank you very much for having a chat to us.
Bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND up. And we will see you next week, hopefully not from a B&B with a bunch of people stomping around behind me.